When you think about platformers on the PS1, you probably think about the most iconic games. Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, maybe even Gex or Croc. When you think about what really revolutionized 3D platforming and made it the genre it is today, you may even point to something like Super Mario 64. But what if I told you there was a little 3D platformer that predates all of them? An ancestor to those famous beloved titles that paved the way for their success. And what if I told you it actually kinda rocks? Today, we're going to be talking about one of the most underrated and lesser known 3D platformers on the PlayStation 1, Jumping Flash, giving you details on where it came from, what it is, and why it's worth checking out to this day. I'm Ashton Lavelle, and if you like this kind of content, make sure to subscribe so you get more content like this. With that, let's jump in. Jumping Flash was developed by a studio called Exact, with help from another studio called Ultra, who evidently had direct support from Sony themselves if Wikipedia is to be believed. I'm unable to find a lot of information about Ultra. It seems like future games in the series were assisted by other developers alongside Exact, who were the primary lead for the series. In either case, the game was released in Japan on April 28, 1995, and in North America on November 2nd, 1995. That's almost a whole year before Super Mario 64. It was originally designed as a tech demo showing the power of 3D graphics running on the PS1. Jumping Flash eventually became a full game release to the public. The game takes place on Crater Planet, which has been broken into different pieces by the machines controlled by the evil and greedy astrophysicist gone mad, Baron Aloha, who also speaks in a thick German accent for some reason. His plan is to make each individual piece of the planet into his own private resort to sell and profit from. You play as the heroic robot rabbit named, appropriately, Robbit, as you hop, skip, and jump your way across each level, collecting carrot-shaped jet pods and freeing each part of the planet from Aloha's evil clutches. Jumping Flash takes place in first-person view, very unlike the famous 3D platformers that you're probably used to. You're looking directly through the eyes of Robbit, which is emphasized by the stylish UI surrounding your view, in which you can see your remaining lives, health, your stored power-ups, timer, points, a minimap, and a little teddy bear spring accessory which will light up as you collect the 4 jet pods around the world. Once all 4 jet pods have been acquired, all you have to do is find the exit and that level will be complete. I thought this first-person perspective would be awkward and sickening at first, especially because this is almost as old-school PlayStation 1 as you can get, a console famous for its stiff tank controls and slow cameras. To my surprise, once you get going, the first-person perspective and controls really click. Movement is smooth and responsive, jumping feels great, especially with how much airtime you really get with Robbit, and despite being hampered by a little tank controls, I never once felt sick or restricted by the control scheme. Part of what makes Jumping Flash's first-person perspective work so well is its level design. Levels are large and spacious, allowing you tons of wiggle room, great vantage points, and plenty of room to jump around in. They're all laid out like massive playgrounds with fun little set pieces and areas littered around the land and even floating in the sky. The game is also very colorful, but not in a blinding way. Objects are distinct from one another, and I never felt overwhelmed by the amount of objects on the screen while I was trying to navigate in that first-person view. Jumping is the name of the game. Literally, it's Jumping Flash. Being a robotic rabbit, Robbit can soar to the skies at incredible heights. I'd argue probably a bit too high. Your ability to completely skip huge sections of levels because of the height and distance Robbit can travel is just absurd. It's easily exploitable. Anytime Robbit's feet hit something, whether that be like the ground or an enemy's head or even the side of terrain that just isn't kind of colliding with his feet right, you can immediately spring back into the air, do another double jump, and keep gaining the height and distance you need to clear any obstacle. I found myself feeling like I was cheating a lot of the time, because I would see these thoughtfully placed platform puzzles all around me, and yet I'd be able to skip past all of it by just jumping so far that I didn't have to worry about them. That's ultimately the biggest issue with Jumping Flash. The game is super easy. Levels are so gorgeously designed, fun, and playful that all I want to do is explore them and see all the wacky stuff around. Like, how in this volcano level, there's just these giant frying pans floating in the air cooking up some fried eggs, or the entirety of this one level, which looks like a child's playroom and toy box supersized and mashed together into some funky level. Unfortunately, because Robert is just so good at his job, it's easy to miss engaging with levels to their fullest extent because it's just too easy to literally skip over most of the level. Enemies don't pose much of a threat either. Their designs are incredible. Frogs with top hats, penguins with bow ties, and, best of them all, a freaking TV set with bat wings that attacks you with echolocation radio waves? That's incredible! You've got a few options within your arsenal to take these enemies on as well. Robert can simply jump on them, as per usual, or you can fire off some laser projectiles, or use one of the many power-ups collected throughout the level. These power-ups show even more of the creativity the developers had. My personal favorites are the twisters, which fire off rolling waves of silly twisty string all around you, and that tank your frame rate. Or the Roman candle, which fires off an incredibly powerful, sustained laser beam. These power-ups are super fun to play around with, but the game never really requires them. Enemies are usually too spaced out and too easily avoided to use the power-ups to their fullest potential. Bosses are also simplistic. The designs are great. I love the genie in the teacup who can morph different parts of his body into larger sizes, and then he tries to attack you with them outside of the teacups. It's amazing. But they're just almost as easily dispatched as regular enemies. The game's also just too short, and I mean short, clocking in at around an hour to an hour and a half to finish the entire story. There is an extra mode, which is kind of just going through the same levels as before, but slightly more difficult, but it's pretty marginal, and a time attack mode, which just sees how fast you can complete each level. Otherwise, that's pretty much it in terms of content. Perhaps 3 hours max to complete everything, and that's if you're really going slow. The short playtime is disappointing because despite the levels being easily completed and enemies being pushovers, I still had a lot of fun playing Jumping Flash. I'm amazed how well it controls, how good the visuals are, how inventive the power-ups are, and how fun and creative the concepts for each level are. There's an incredible 3D platformer here that far surpasses the tech demo that it was made originally to be, but it doesn't quite reach the greatness levels of the platformers that came after it. But the story does not end here. Jumping Flash did receive enough praise and sales to earn a sequel, Jumping Flash 2. Which released in Japan on April 26, 1996, and in North America on August 21st, 1996, a little less than a year after the first game. This time, the goal was to make a full-fledged game, rather than just a tech demo. Complete with updated graphics, new levels, and a second chance, could Jumping Flash 2 become the smash hit platformer that the first game couldn't quite live up to? The answer is kind of? Jumping Flash 2 is without a doubt better than the first game in every way. Your movement and jumping abilities have remained the same, you can still hang in the air and exploit Robot's jump just as much as before. Power-ups also largely mimic the original game with a few exceptions, but what the sequel does is improve what made Jumping Flash already good and crank it up to 11, starting with the story. Taking place sometime after the evil Baron Aloha's defeat in the first game, Aloha's own vacation planet is taken over and stuffed into various display bottles by this weird, wacky creature named Captain Kabuki, who I can only describe as some sort of Katamari-esque being. He's like if Katamari Damacy and Galactus had a baby. It's weird. Thankfully for Aloha, despite his crimes that he inexplicably served no time in space jail for, either breaking apart planets isn't a crime in this universe, or the power of the rich still holds true even in this universe. He still lawfully pays his taxes though, and requests the help of Robert to get his planet back. Our job then, against our better judgment, is to go into each bottle, free all 4 of the Moos, Aloha's little alien minions, and exit the level, somehow freeing that segment from the confines of the bottle. What the moves have to do with breaking out of glass bottles, I couldn't tell you, and the game doesn't really care, so why should I? The story isn't only set up though. In between the 6 worlds you travel to, short FMV cutscenes play that follow Aloha as he roots against Robert and schemes how he can use the situation to his advantage. They're not anything special or deep, but they add just a little bit of flavor to the experience and give you just a tiny little morsel to look forward to after each boss battle. Each world is a vast improvement from the first game as well. Each one from the sunny beach vacation level filled with water slides, to the brown, rusty industrial level with cranes and moving mechanical platforms, to the amusement park with an incredibly fun roller coaster gimmick. Each level is full of fun ideas, great colors, and is a blast to run around and explore. This time, exploring actually matters for more than just the objective. There are secret areas in each level, usually multiple, that can be found which hide additional power-ups. I found it pretty fun to run around these playground levels, discovering the doors that can be blasted open, revealing their secrets before continuing on the mission to save the moose. The UI was also improved. It's largely the same, but it has this added jump meter on the right side, which helps you gauge your jumps and how many you have left in the tank. Otherwise though, the core gameplay loop remains unchanged from the first. What has changed in a major way is the boss battles. In the first game, I found only 1 or 2 bosses really creative, but here, there are a bunch more. A robotic samurai who breathes fire, shoots laser tracking beams, swings a wave of energy, and has 2 little minions that float around as pesky assistants. A giant, robot-eating carnivorous plant that can spawn a horde of seedlings to help it fight and will heal to full health. A humongous robo-spider that can climb on the ceiling and hatch robot spider eggs that explode. So many of the bosses in this game were fun, creative, and even challenging at times, especially that damnable robot samurai. I thoroughly enjoyed my time fighting each boss, and it's easily the most improved aspect from the first game. Unfortunately, the 2 core issues from the first game are still present here. It's just far too easy to exploit this game. I really think Robert fundamentally jumps too high and too far. I did find myself engaging and exploring the different parts of each world a little bit more than in the first, but not by enough to define a stark difference. The game is also just as short as the first, clocking in at almost an exact same 1.5 to 3 hours max to complete the extra mode, the same levels again but more difficult, and the time attack mode. This time at least, extra mode has a few new FMV cutscenes that progress the story after the base game is done, giving it a bit more purpose, but it's still not enough content. There is an extra incentive to replay levels in the form of performance medals. These are basically like little achievements that you can earn during your playthrough for accomplishing certain hidden goals. For instance, collecting all monies that enemies drop in a level gives you the Penny Pincher medal, or holding on to 3 of the same power-ups gives you the El Dorado badge. The medals are fairly easy to obtain once you learn what they require, and serve as just like a small bonus for hardcore fans of the game. If you put both games together into one experience, this short length complaint probably wouldn't exist. It really feels like there's like a 3 to 6 hour game here that was cut in half between 2 titles, leaving 2 titles that are just far too short for their own good. Though the 2 games may be too short and a bit too easy, I do think they are worth a look, especially if you have any interest in seeing what the ancestor to those great 3D platformers that came after it looked like. Jumping Flash is a forgotten hidden gem on the PlayStation 1, overshadowed by titans that would follow in its footsteps. It's weird, it's wacky, it's colorful, and it's a blast to play. While the story of Jumping Flash in North America ends here, that's not entirely the end of the story completely for the franchise. On February 4th, 1999, a spin-off game, Pocket Moo, was released on PS1 only in Japan. It was intended to be paired with an old memory card peripheral called the Pocket Station, which held your memory card and displayed different things on the screen depending on what the game needed it for. It wasn't required to play Pocket Moo, but did add an out-of-game type of experience for those who had the accessory. Now obviously, the only footage online is in Japanese, and it appears that no one fluent in both Japanese and English cares enough about Pocket Moo to translate it, so I don't really know what the goal of the game is. The footage I'm showing here, shout out to Retro Pixel Lizard and Sally's Retro Game Dungeon for the footage, link in the description. It shows you playing as Robert from the main series, but this time you're only in a singular area. You no longer have access to a double jump or a triple jump, no weapons to shoot, no power-ups to collect or enemies to avoid. You just kind of walk around and talk to moos, go shopping, ride a roller coaster or a Ferris wheel, collect a few of these symbols trapped in boxes, and then you buy and play a bunch of Pocket Station mini games, and that's about it. If anyone has any more specific information, let me know down in the comment section below. While I wish I could see what exactly is going on in this game in English, Looking at the footage, I'm not very impressed with this spin-off. Seems more like a gimmick to sell Pocket Stations than a thought-out Jumping Flash game. Jumping Flash would return to full glory on October 14th, 1999, with the Japan-only release of Robot Mon Dieu. Robot Mon Dieu? Robot Mon Dieu? Somebody correct me down in the comment section below. I'm going to try my best. While named differently, this game more accurately reflects what a Jumping Flash 3 would be. You play as a yellow painted Robot, complete with your full arsenal of jumps, power-ups, and weaponry from the first two titles. Shout out once again to Retro Pixel Lizard for the footage. This time the color palette has significantly changed, opting for more mute, duller colors with higher definition textures, rather than the simplistic but vibrant palette from the first two titles. I don't really mind this change, and I actually think it's a nice change of pace. Similarly departing from the original two games, Robot Mon Dieu also changes up the primary objectives. Rather than each level being a playground area with 4 items to collect and an exit, you may encounter an area where you have to take a child back to his home, or you may have to make precise jumps to each platform on your way to an exit without missing one, or you might be dropped from the sky and have to hit rings as you fall to the exit. The variety of levels in Robot Mon Dieu is significantly higher than in either of the first two games, which leaves me pretty envious of those who got to experience this in Japan. One of my biggest complaints of Jumping Flash was its easy difficulty leading to a lack of engagement in the world. This seems solved, at least partially, by expanding the types of things you do in each area while retaining the crazy high-flying platforming of the first two games. Unfortunately, English-speaking nations never saw this game, and likely never will given the lack of interest in Jumping Flash. That would be the end of Robot's journey and the end of Jumping Flash. The developer Exact, who became Sugar and Rockets while developing Pocket Moo and Robot Mon Dieu, would end up merging with SCEI and no longer exists as a company, just as Jumping Flash no longer exists as a franchise. It's a shame, really. Jumping Flash was a true ancestor to the great 3D platformers of the PlayStation 1 and Nintendo 64 era. I can't say for certain how much influence the game had on titles like Crash Bandicoot or Super Mario 64, but what I can say is that Jumping Flash deserved more. It deserved more time to bake. It deserved longer, more fleshed out games. It deserved more popularity than what it got. Jumping Flash is a criminally underrated and underplayed 3D platformer that's still a ton of fun today. Thinking back on some of those levels, like the weird chessboard kid's bedroom level from the first game, or the amusement park level in the second game, they just fill me with childhood joy that makes me nostalgic for those younger days. It's a game that, to me, represents that simple childhood memory of booting up a PlayStation 1, hearing the intro chime, and experiencing a fun, colorful game that keeps a smile on your face all the way through. I hope one day Jumping Flash can return in some form, but for now, all we have left is the cherished memory of this funky 3D platformer. Guys, if you like this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button so I know that you want to see more of it, and hit the like button so I know that you enjoyed the video. It's a little bit of a different kind of video, a little focused on Jumping Flash itself, a little more, shorter than my other videos by a little bit. I'm trying to put out some more content than what I have been recently, so I'm curious what your guys' thoughts on this video was. I'm still working on a bigger project. I am bringing to you a huge retrospective on the first Final Fantasy, as I'm going to be playing through all of the Final Fantasies from the first all the way up to the most recent, whatever game that is at the time. So that's going to be a lot of fun, but it takes a lot of work. So I'm going to be putting out more videos of this style that's a little shorter, a little bit more focused, so that you guys have more stuff to watch. So I'm curious if you guys enjoyed that. Please let me know down in the comment section below your thoughts about all that. Have you played Jumping Flash before? Did you enjoy it? Have you not played it before? Are you interested in it now? Let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to hear it. And don't forget, while you're down there, go ahead and hit subscribe so I know that you want to see more. Until then, I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.